Well, nice to imagine you. Jonathan Foust here. Welcome to this webcast. Delighted to have this time with you. Thank you for making the time. Got kind of a fun. I have a talk that I think might be really helpful for your practice. That's the focus here. I don't know if meditation is fun, but it's certainly worthy. Anyway, thank you for being here. My name is Jonathan Foust. Before we launch, I always like to honor those who help to make this happen. First of all, to our mindful movement teacher, to Rita Moran, and to our mindful dialogue leader, Ray Manioki. The whole Monday night smorgasbord starts at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time with Rita leading mindful movement, which helps to prepare you for this meditation and this talk. And then afterward, if you would like to connect with like-minded people guided by a really wonderful dude, feel free to join up with Ray and those who get gathered to talk about practice, bringing mindfulness into your life, anything from the talk that might have sparked you. So those links to the movement session before and mindful dialogue after are available on my website and on my Facebook page. A thank you to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, to Glenn Harrison, our producer, for bringing this to you tonight. I've got a mailing list with a monthly and a weekly, just giving you an update as to upcoming talks on the weekly and on the monthly, or actually it's not every month, but mostly every month, just sharing kind of a summary of talks and my best photography. So feel free to sign up for that if you like. That's on my website too. And finally, all of this is offered through this whole practice of generosity. No one receives any direct compensation for this offering. As you can imagine, there are expenses that go into it. There's a lot of time that goes into putting together a talk. I do it because I love it. I do it because I get to hear what I most need to remember for myself. And I have the gratification of knowing that maybe this would be helpful for some people. At the same time, if you would like to help support this, your generosity is always appreciated. So thank you so much for considering. You can make donations on my Facebook. Yeah, I think there's a link on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on my website at jonathanfoust.com. So, mindfulness of the body. The body is where it all happens, as you know. It's everything you seek is found within is kind of an adage that most of us hear. It becomes a really interesting question in the practice of meditation. Is that true? Everything you seek is found within? Certainly, you begin to recognize your relationship to reality, how you create your reality, by how you explore this moment-to-moment awareness of what is arising from inside. We're going to explore this, sharing a technique I think you're going to find really helpful. It's certainly kind of a powerful practice for me as well, called whole body breathing. And we're going to talk about how do you work with the fundamental energies that arise and meet them there before they proliferate into this whole realm of reactionary living, getting caught in beliefs, getting caught in habits, all that stuff. So I think it's going to be a helpful talk. Before that, though, let's take some time to kind of honor this flesh unit that we are inhabiting right now. So you might like to close your eyes. And as you take this time to close your eyes, just sense as best you can, is there any way that might support you in adjusting your posture in any way? Would you like to stretch? Would you like to let out any sounds? Would you like to let out any primal scream, if that's appropriate? There's something here about taking your seat that can be incredibly helpful. Taking the seat for your practice. And when you have that sense of settling, you might turn your attention to your breath and just notice how when you actually feel and experience the breath on the inside, you automatically begin to become more self-aware and more self-absorbed. So ask yourself now, is there any way that you might breathe that would help you to gather your attention? And for many people, slowing down the breath And deepening the breath and smoothing out the breath is a powerful technique. If it's helpful, you might count slowly into the count of 4 and then slowly to the count of 4 in the exhalation, just matching the length of the in-breath with the length of the out-breath. Notice the effect as you bring your attention to this felt sense of the body, the experience of the body from the inside. Now, if it's helpful, you can stay with the breath, or if you like, you might just let the control of the breath fall away and just notice how intimately you can feel the natural movement of the breath, the ease of the breath flowing in and flowing out. And you might just sense what it's like to allow all expression to melt away from your face. And what happens if you soften the inside of your mouth, relaxing your tongue? Could you relax and feel the volume of your lips? Is it possible to soften the jaw, to just incrementally let the jaw relax, feeling that little gap between the upper teeth and the lower teeth, letting that gap widen as you sense what it's like to let go through the jaw. Feeling now the base of the skull, the back of the neck. Is it possible to soften or relax here? Could you feel or imagine the weight and the volume of your arms? And just allow the heaviness of the arms to invite you into a sense of deepening inner awareness and relaxation, sensing down through your elbows and down through the wrists. Feeling the backs of the hands. Feeling the palms. And sensing, if you can, or imagining the volume of your thumbs, the space inside your thumbs. The volume of your fingers. As you sense your lower back and buttocks, is it possible to soften or relax here? Is it possible to feel from the inside out the space in the center of your torso just below your navel? And as you breathe, can you feel the expansion of the belly on the inhalation? and the falling of the belly on the exhalation. Feeling now the hip joints and the floor of the pelvis. And sensing the length of the legs from the hips to the knees. The knees down through the ankles. The tops of the feet and the toes. And sensing now the soles of the feet and the heels. And is there anything right now, from the crown of the head down to the soles of the feet, is there anything that could soften or relax even more? Noting this quality of relaxation, while at the same time a quality of alertness. And here you might bring your attention to the movement of the breath on the inside, or maybe to the sounds around you. And let this anchor, let this portal of the feeling tone or the sounds be your primary focus. Knowing that awareness kind of collapses and you'll get lost. But when you wake up, notice how gently you can return to the experience of the breath, or to the vibration of sound. Your mind will naturally wander. That's what the mind does. But when you wake up, could you smile inwardly and return back to re-arrive, to re-relax, to feel, to receive the moment? Taking this sense of refuge in the here and now. This breath, these sounds, rested and at the same time alert. You might now relax any sense of effort. Just relax and feel. Imagine there was nothing to do and nowhere to go, just simply to notice what's here and notice what's changing. And as you're ready, you might begin to deepen your breath. Let your body move, stretch in any way that feels right for you. Very gently now beginning your transition. And welcome back. I become a bit of a sleep nerd. I've done a lot of stuff to try to improve my sleep because I really understand how critical it is to get good sleep for physical health, for emotional well-being, and for long-term care for my brain. And the reality is, I struggle with insomnia. I fall asleep fine. I usually sleep solid for about 4 or 5 hours, and then I wake up, and then I'll be awake for usually an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so I'm very aware of how the mind comes in and starts to ruminate. Actually, for me, it kind of usually goes beyond rumination into hallucination. And the hallucinations usually are about the next day, how horrible it's going to be. I've tried all kinds of strategies. One of my favorite things is to kind of listen to a podcast or listen to a book. I've checked a lot of that stuff out. A lot of the sleep with me type podcasts, they don't really work for me. My mind is wanting to make sense, and part of the whole idea with these sleep podcasts is they kind of randomize images and so forth, which kind of mimic the dream state, where thoughts are very, very random. My dreams are so wild. But if you have enough wakefulness, it just drives you crazy because you're trying to track the narrative of the story, and of course there isn't one. My favorite for quite a while was In Our Time, which is Melvin Bragg interviewing 3 or 4 professors on some very, very esoteric issue. And that's been great because it's not too confrontational. It's pretty much even tones. It'll oftentimes space me out. If I can't sleep, I learn something. But podcasts are now being monetized, so a lot of my favorite podcasts now have ads that are just inserted into them. So the first time that happened was listening to some dialogue around some French noble who wrote some book on astrology, on astronomy, and in the middle of it is like, war, famine, listen to the BBC to get the latest updates. Did not work for me. So some audiobooks work for me. I've listened to Eknath Easwaran's interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita many, many times. That works pretty well. And also listening to a recitation of the Tao Te Ching. That's been pretty cool. But recently, where is the story going? I've been listening to The Mind Illuminated, which is a wonderful book that explores sort of meditation, neurobiology, and like the elephant path of going deeper and deeper into concentration. Any interviews I've done with Tracy Budd, that's kind of the path that he's been following. And one of the techniques that's talked about in this book is called whole body breathing, which is a different way of working with the breath. Because you're breathing, but you're just noticing the whole felt sense of the body. So as you breathe, you're feeling the whole interior nature of the breath. And the first time I listened to that, I fell into a very, very deep sleep. And I got a 91 out of 100 on my Aura app in the morning. So, wow, I was really pumped. And of course, what happens when you become aware of, when you train your attention on the body, on the here and now, you're moving from the story or the narrative back to the sense of embodied presence. And of course, I went back to it the next night and with all these expectations of how powerful it would be. And because my mind was so activated, didn't work. Didn't work as well. But nonetheless, there was a very powerful teaching in there. And I remember doing an SN Goenka retreat where he said, if you can't sleep, do a body scan. And he said, you might be surprised how rested you feel, even if you don't fall asleep. And a lot of the techniques that I use when I can't sleep are either going through the body systematically, sensing the quality of feeling, the feeling tone. Sometimes I do open focus where I'm sensing the space inside the body. When I do that, it does help me shift from being caught in the narrative and the storyline and kind of cutting through and coming back to the here and now. So in this residential retreat last week, I offered the first talk of the retreat, which is about the importance of establishing awareness in the body. And I'd like to continue that theme. I'd like to talk about how this body is a matrix of mind and energy. I'd like to share with you and guide you through whole body breathing, because I think it's a technique that really could be helpful for you. You can try it on and evaluate for yourself. I'd like to talk about how to work with the energies that arise in the body, because there are 5 strong weather systems that will show up in your life and in meditation, and there are some strategies for navigating that. If we're not mindful of these energetic weather systems, we get hijacked and we get lost for, well, minutes or sometimes decades. And finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about what does it mean to actually achieve liberation through the body? Because that's the promise here, that you can understand and know everything about the nature of reality simply by investigating your experience on the inside. So this is a follow-up talk. I kind of gave the first talk last week. It's not required you listen to the first one. Might be helpful. But if you've practiced meditation, at least in the Vipassana tradition or in many traditions, you are reminded again and again to come back to the body. In fact, you might do that right now. If you close your eyes or just cast your eyes down slightly, please don't if you're driving. Where do you feel the breath right now? How intimately can you locate that? And notice what happens when you simply locate where you feel the breath. This movement inward. As you sense on the inside, what could soften or relax right now? And what happens as you just explore the experience of what we call the sense doors? If you just for a moment turn your attention to sound, 360 degrees, what are the sound vibrations right now? If you open the sense door of smell, is there any particular smell that you can detect? The sense door of taste, is there any lingering taste that you could determine right now? If your eyes are closed, can you just sense the light beyond your closed eyes? Any visual phenomena? So just noticing sound vibration, smell, taste, perception of light, the visual phenomena. And now you might turn your attention to touch externally. Can you feel the air on the skin on the back of your hands right now? Can you identify the texture of the clothing on your shoulders right now? That's a sense of external touch, but internal, there's this world of the felt sense, of feeling, of vibrations. And one place you might explore is to feel from the inside your hands. Could you soften your hands? The more you relax, the more you feel. And is it possible to feel from the inside, possibly, any sense of energy or vibration, or maybe even the pulse? And now, is it possible to feel all the sense doors wide open? Sound, taste, smell, sight, feeling. And just for the next 15 seconds, is it possible to open the sense doors and just receive what's happening? And now drop all technique and just feel the imprint of this last maybe 3 minutes of entraining your attention on the senses and your inner experience. So why are we guided again and again to return back to this embodied experience of the moment? There's a good reason for that. Again, this whole idea that everything you seek is found within. And that what arises from the body is sort of this opening. First, there's energy, feeling, vibration, tingling, pulse. That energy, feeling, tingling, pulse has got a feeling tone, which will show up as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Before you know it, that feeling tone is going to kick off a process of thoughts and emotions. I like this reminds me of this. I don't like that, this reminds me of this. And then we're lost in the narrative. If you're not aware of your thought process, some of those thoughts are repetitive. And if you think the same thought 1,000 times, it's going to harden and calcify into a belief. I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And you believe you don't like this and it's bad. If you're not aware of the beliefs in your life, they will form your habits. Your habits will form your character. And if you're not aware of your character structure and you're living out of reaction in your life, that forms your destiny. Energy, feeling, tone, thought, belief, habit, character, destiny. So you can hang out on any one of those, but part of the practice is, can you bring your attention to the energetic experience? Can you work with that feeling tone and be aware of it before it proliferates into a whole reactionary pattern which has some karmic effect, some cause and some effect? So we are trained to bring our attention to what's happening right now. For most people, we live in the mind. Just very, very briefly, part of the essence of yoga philosophy and my understanding is we are made up of two elements of awareness and energy, known as chitta, which is the mind and awareness, and prana, which is energy. We override that. You're working at your computer, your body says, I need to pee. You push it off until the signals are too strong. Your body lets you know it's time to go to sleep. You override it, see what's on TV. There's a consequence to that. So the classic story, which I've shared before, is this kind of a Zen story of this radiant woman. People would come from all over just to be in her presence. She was asked what her secret was. And she smiled and said, I sleep when I'm tired, and I eat when I'm hungry. I listen and I live in the rhythm of the body. Could it be that that's all it is? In many ways, I think so. But also what you'll notice in this transformational journey of mindfulness, of really paying attention, it's helpful to remember this analogy of a big circle with a line through it. Imagine a big circle. Everything above the line is what you're aware of. Everything below that line is everything that is unfelt, unseen, undigested in your life. When you bring your attention to the body, when you relax, and when you pay attention, that is the alchemy of opening into new possibilities, because you will feel things you hadn't felt before. You will notice things you hadn't noticed before. And everything that's incomplete in your life will begin to arise, to be seen in the light of awareness, and ultimately to be released and integrated in its own way. So here you are with your body, this portable flesh unit, but you're also this being of awareness. And this is so interesting, to me anyway. If you like, just close your eyes for a moment and just feel your breath. Where do you feel the breath right now? Could you soften your palms? And here you are, is sensing who you are as this being of energy. This body that you're inhabiting right now is filled with life force. Prana, chi, ki, Holy Spirit, animus, whatever you might call it. You are a being of energy. And you're also a being of awareness. And just to sense for a moment, what is it that is aware right now? Can you imagine that no matter what's happening, there is this background of awareness? A quality of awareness that is not judging. It's neither for nor against anything. And it's kind of unblinking. It's just awake and aware. It's in the background, but it permeates every moment. It extends out beyond the furthest stars, and it can also be aware of the space inside your right thumb right now. This quality of awareness can hold anything and everything. And that is who you are. So, if you like, you can open your eyes. Feel free to remain with them closed. Those moments when we feel the expansive quality of awareness, when you can feel or imagine or really you are that sense of non-grasping, non-judging awareness, it can be blissful moments. I've noticed that quality of tapping into non-judging awareness, which sets up the realm of insight to see clearly into the knots that you are holding inside, that sees underneath the false belief systems that you have taken on innocently. Those moments, you can't make them happen, but you can cultivate an optimal field for awareness to flourish. Anytime you relax and feel, you turn your awareness more inward. The more you relax, the more you feel. The more you feel, the more you notice. What permeates energy and your body is this quality of what some call mindfulness, or what I like to think of it as non-judging, non-preferential awareness. I had the good fortune to live in an ashram for a good chunk of my life, a couple decades, and we had many, many different teachers who would travel through. And while it's not cool to do accents anymore, one teacher would talk about what he called the body-mind. Body-mind, one word. And it's a very interesting way to kind of describe who we are, that we're the body-mind. We are a mind-body matrix. What exists in your mind exists in the body. What exists in the body exists in the mind. Could that be true? And what I found for myself is every thought, every belief, every emotion, if I look, has a corresponding resonance inside in the body. And what I have found is the more I relax, the more I feel, the more I get a sense of how my body, how my nervous system holds my thoughts, my emotions, my stories, my narrative. So the more you relax, the more you feel, and the more you're aware in that sort of little cosmology, you begin to notice what you hadn't noticed before. And that can be a good thing. And it can also be a really challenging and disorienting thing. One of my favorite readings. This is from Robert Hall. And this piece is called Within the Body You Are Wearing. If you like, you can close your eyes. This is pretty short. Within the body you are wearing, now inside the bones and beating in the heart, lives the one you have been searching for so long. But you must stop running away and shake hands. The meeting doesn't happen without your presence, your participation. The same one waiting for you there is moving in the trees, glistening on the water, growing in the grasses and lurking in the shadows you create. You have nowhere to go. The marriage happened long ago. Behold your mate. Your body is the one you've got. This is the one you're working with until it falls away. We are all inclined to run away. But if we stop and shake hands, when we participate in the body-mind, we can begin to sense that one who is waiting for us there. We truly have nowhere to go. So I'd like to share with you a technique. Quite often we are aware of being mindful of the breath, anapanasati. And here you choose to place your attention at the nostrils or at the belly or anywhere where you feel the breath the most predominant. And when the mind wanders, you bring it back. Now, it's really helpful to sometimes have sort of a narrow practice, like this is what you do. And this comes from the dig one well school of thought. It says, if you want water, dig one well. Don't dig 10 wells. Dig one well, go deep. There's something to that. There really is something about give yourself to a practice fully. But then the other approach is actually what you want to do is explore what wells really work for you. So try some on and then evaluate, is this helpful or not? And I find that there's a balance. Stick with the technique, see what happens, and then ask yourself, what is the result of this? There's a shadow side to digging one well, and that is that you might work with a technique that doesn't really resonate for you. But also, if you find yourself moving to a new technique when you get uncomfortable, that's not going to work either. So this is a breath-based technique, but it may be different than what you've practiced before. I find it can be super helpful. Some people who really have trouble holding their attention on the nostrils or on the belly find this technique to be kind of a go-to technique for them. It's usually more profound when you have more access to subtle awareness. But for some, this is how they use a breath-based meditation. And it's called whole body breathing, where you bring your awareness to what we call the felt sense of the body. And just to say a little bit about it, and even now, if you just close your eyes for a moment, can you just sense the felt sense of the body is the energy body. Right now, it's the feeling inside, the vibration, the pulse, the subtle energy. And so it's about breathing while being aware of this whole inner world, this whole inner universe of the felt sense. Now, as we go through this, if there's anything I say that doesn't resonate for you, that's fine. You may find, just like when you are doing regular focus on the breath of the belly, your awareness collapses and you start again. It's the same thing here. So if you like, this will be for a few minutes because I'd really love for you to get a taste of this and get a sense of how this works for you, how this might resonate for you. If you like, you can close your eyes and let's just take a few moments to really sense your posture. Does your posture feel right for you? Do you need to adjust anything? Maybe you need to stretch. Maybe you'd like to sit up a little bit taller. If you're slumping, it might be helpful to sit up a little taller. If you're kind of overreaching, it might be helpful to relax. This practice of whole body breathing is opening to the felt sense of the body. And here's an interesting thing that I find helpful. Can you feel right now this whole interior world of your body? Feeling, vibration, pulse, subtle energy, tingling. And what you'll want to do is to feel a little bit larger than the physical body. I don't know why this works, but it does for me. Feel the outline of your body a little bit beyond and all the aliveness inside. Now, as best you can, just feel your breath while simultaneously just sensing everything inside. As you go deeper into this, you'll have more of a sense of the body as feeling integrated. It's not like your hands are here, your feet are down there. It's a sense of a one whole body area and a sense of almost like simultaneity of sensation. Don't worry if this doesn't make sense. As you continue to relax into it, you may notice some inner shifts here. Just feel your breath and feel everything, the simultaneity of sensations inside. And over time, it will feel less and less like awareness is in your head and you're peering down, and more like awareness lives in the fullness of feeling in the body. You're sensing the whole space of the body, the outline of your body, and a little bit bigger. And we're going to explore some refinements. What is the longest comfortable breath that you could initiate now? The longest comfortable breath, not super effortful, but engaged. Can find that middle way. You're lengthening the breath, but it's still comfortable. We're going to explore the experience of the breath on the inside now. Notice the expansion on the inhalation. You'll notice this more initially in the rib cage. Expansion of the rib cage, or the expansion of the belly as you breathe in. But notice if you can relax even more now and sense any expansion beyond the rib cage of the belly. Any subtle expansion as you inhale. And can you imagine the inhalation as expanding through the whole body? Can you imagine the inhalation as energizing the space inside the body? Each inhalation, feel the expansion, and you might imagine an energizing of the space inside. Can you imagine that energizing all the way out to the outer edges of your body, maybe a little even beyond your body? And could you enjoy this even more right now? So with the inhalation, this expansion on the inside, beyond the rib cage, beyond the belly, any sense of subtle expansion. Imagining or feeling expansion and a subtle energizing of the space inside. And notice now, what does the exhalation feel like on the inside? Just tune into that. Feel that. And could you imagine or feel on the exhalation a relaxation? Maybe a softening, a letting go. Could you imagine a soothing on the breath moving out? And could you enjoy this exhalation even more? We're going to continue for a few more minutes, and just some reminders. You're exploring the longest comfortable breath. You're exploring whole body awareness, everything you can feel on the inside, and slightly bigger than your body. Tingling, pulse, aliveness. Can you imagine or feel on the inhalation and expanding and energizing? Can you feel or imagine on the exhalation a relaxing, a letting go, a soothing? In this final minute, just cultivating a quality of openness, a deepening sensitivity to what's here on the inside, and a responsiveness. This is an alive process. And you might explore what length of breathing gives you the most pleasure. The longest breath, the shortest breath. Letting it be subtle or more active. How much could you sensitize yourself to the whole inner space right now? Feeling it, engaging in it, and enjoying it. You might lengthen your breath a little bit, and just for the next minute, let go of all technique. Let all technique fall away. Just simply relax and feel. Receive the moment. If you like, you can open your eyes. Feel free to shift, move your posture in any way that feels good. I hope you found that helpful. The breath is still the doorway. But rather than narrowing your attention to the breath at the nostrils or the septum or the belly, you are letting your breath be comfortably long and heightening your awareness of the aliveness inside. Tingling, pulse, vibration, subtle energy. You may have found that to be frustrating. You may have found it to be deeply absorbing. I'll be offering a kind of a separate meditation on whole body breathing and have it on the podcast and YouTube if you'd like to check it out. There's some other subtleties you can explore. But it's really interesting kind of physiologically. When you take a breath in, the pressure changes in your chest cause your heart rate to increase and your blood pressure to decrease. And this change might be detected in your peripheries. And you may feel them as a shift in blood flow, kind of ebbing and flowing with the breath. Sometimes you may notice when you're really, really subtly relaxed and awake, you can actually feel an expansion of this felt sense in the fingertips or the palms or anywhere inside. Sometimes it feels like you might be imagining it. But there's a great line that I heard. It's called kinesthetic imagination. And that is to sort of just allow yourself to imagine this subtle expansion and energizing on the in-breath, and this subtlety of softening and letting go on the exhalation. So there's something about entraining our attention to be present in the body, embodied presence. And there's good news and bad news. The good news is you will become much more sensitive and aware of what's happening and how your nervous system holds it. That's the good news. The bad news is you're going to be much more aware of how your body holds any kind of stimulation. But I'd rather be aware than not aware. And as we explore kind of these skillful means of how to work with what arises, it's entirely possible that we will experience what one of my teachers said to me: the greatest result of your practice is confidence. A growing confidence that you can be with and hold anything. So every time you come back to the here and now, every time you bring your awareness back to the body, you are becoming profoundly aware of how this experience is manifesting on the inside. And then you become profoundly aware of how you're holding it, your reactive patterns. If we hang out on the level of mind, trying to figure everything out with the mind, as one of my teachers said, it's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. You're just proliferating the whole process. The question is it possible to sort of transcend what's happening in the thought process and experience and work with what's happening energetically before it proliferates? And this becomes just such a juicy way of working the issues in your life. It's obviously a topic of fascination for me. I'm pausing here because I see I have just a few minutes left, and there's so much more I wanted to say about this, which I will cover. Just give me a moment. I'm moving into executive decision making. It's one of the challenges of going live. Well, let me go into this. You know what it's like when you look in the mirror and you're stunned by how good looking you are? I'm asking because I don't know what that's like. I caught sight of myself in a plate glass mirror a little while ago, and I thought, oh my God, is that what I look like now? I didn't recognize myself. Every time we see an image of ourselves, it's usually with some negative bias. We have this baked in judgment and aversion toward our body. And one of the most challenging things that we have in front of us is overcoming this negativity bias and consciously making friends with the body. The more you can befriend your body, the more it can be an incredible ally, an instrumental part of your practice. There's no question about it. We are the inheritors of many traditions and how they relate to the body. If you look around the globe, in every culture, there is some tradition that basically says your body is a bundle of animalistic energies that needs to be tamed. So we have the path of denial, the celebration of willpower, and the celebration of mind over matter. Different traditions have ways of working that. Some traditions have you deny the body pleasure and burn through that. In the Buddhist tradition, there are very detailed meditations on the stages of decay of the body. And part of that is to get distance from the body's sensuality, to get distance from attachment to the body, and to understand more fully this law of impermanence. There are some traditions that say, okay, so you are this bundle of animalistic urges. The only way through it is to go through it. So jump in and give yourself fully to sensual delights. And if there's anything left, you'll come to realize that that's not the answer. We know that this body is subject to change. We know your body is going to fall away, and we forget all the time. We also, in terms of overcoming our relationship with this aversion, is we need to learn how to meditate with the body, to cooperate with your body as an ally. So a very interesting thing is, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, is there are different attitudes toward the body in meditation. And one of them is the heighten meditation, or the sitting of strong determination, where you sit with the determination not to move a muscle other than the muscles required for breathing. It's a very, very powerful technique, because what happens is you kind of restrain the instinctive reactivity to sensation, and you become a very powerful witness. And you can see how sensations just coming and going, I don't need to react. They just come and go. I am the witness. Quite often, those meditations are excruciating, I have found personally. But there is profound insight. The other way of meditating with your body is to, whenever the body has an urge, you make a choice to move. For example, if your nose itches, you make it a choice, and you make that part of your meditation. And if you slowly bring your hand up and scratch your nose, you can watch this whole play of unpleasant morphing to pleasant, moving to neutral, moving to unpleasant again. It's a different way of being in the body. So let's close. We have just a minute or two left with a short meditation on this, if you like. If you like, you can close your eyes. And just take a moment to sense, is there any way your body would like to move right now? Give it permission to find its most pleasurable state of sitting. And take a moment to bring your attention to your breath. And if just for a moment, as you feel the breath, sense on the inside the aliveness. Feeling the outline of your body maybe expanding just a bit beyond. And as you breathe, you might again just sense the expansion on the inhalation. On each breath, a softening, a relaxing, a soothing. You might, if you like, bring your hand to your heart and offer just in your own way an intention to listen ever more deeply, to cultivate a partnership, an intimate partnership with your body. opening to a sense of greater ease, the possibility of deeper peace, the possibility of feeling more and more safe, the possibility of being in the body, connected to the body, and at the same time free, with a heart filled with well-being, with kindness, with a radiant light within, and a light that can shine in all directions, out beyond the furthest stars, awake, fully present, and utterly open. As you're ready, you can deepen the breath. As you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you found this helpful. The more we can bring a sense of kindness and deep listening within, the more awake, the more vibrant, the more alive we can feel. Happy, happy trails. May you and your body have a wonderful time together until we meet again.